Corridors Part 2, The Right Price.
To put it mildly, it was an uncommon sight to see a group of 4 humans being led by a green-feathered Onathin through the Onathi marketplace. Most Onathins had heard of the newly found species, but few have actually seen one of them with their own 4 eyes. As such, there was a lot of staring and pecking amongst the Onathins as Diplomat Pellin showed the ambassadorial entourage around the Onathi marketplace. To be fair, the humans were also staring back at everyone and everything around them. The Onathi marketplace sprawled across half of one of the 5 continents on the Onathin homeworld. Unending streets crisscrossed the entire marketplace, lined with booths, stalls, and shops of varying sizes and shapes. It was quite noisy. Chirps, squawks, and repetitive pitches filled the air as the vendors vocalized their products. The Onathi marketplace was so large that some Onathins made a living by buying and selling at different sections to generate a small profit. It seemingly sold everything that was available in the Onathi sovereignty. The trick was getting the right price for your item. Derek Yang looked up and around him. Spires rose up along the streets at defined intervals, reaching up high into the atmosphere. He watched with fascination as one of the trunk-like spires seemed to slightly unravel at the top, as if opening its mouth in anticipation. A low-flying spacecraft zipped by, dropping a package squarely into the mouth. The fibers in the spire then seemed to contract, forcing the package downwards in a smooth peristaltic motion. He tapped his wife.
"Did you see that, Tara? That tower thing just swallowed the package. And now it's at street level."
Fascinating,
Tara responded, looking at a pair of Onathins squawking rapidly at each other.
I think they're haggling.
What? Sorry. I was looking at the friggin' tree that swallowed a package from space and pooped it out, unharmed and undigested. Okay, maybe a little digested, and now those birds are resupplying their stall.
Derek chattered. They continued walking along the streets, marveling at the various products being chirped and squawked about. Shiny trinkets seemed to be in every shop or booth, subtly twinkling with mesmerizing patterns of light. Onathin advertisements. Interesting, Derek thought. He prodded Tara again.
Hey, Tara, you think you could figure out why the birds like shiny things so much?
Don't let them hear you call them that. We're supposed to be on our best behavior, remember?
Tara admonished, fixing Derek with a disapproving look. Her frown quickly dissolved into a laugh.
Damn, couldn't keep a straight face. This is so exciting.
Up ahead, Alan, the pilot that flew them here, waved them over. Derek and Tara jogged up the streets, past booths selling slimy green delicacies, weird lizard slug animals in cages, and giant flowers with luxurious petals.
Hey, you two. Jeremy found something cool.
Jeremy, the physicist that accompanied them on the mission, was inspecting another silver trinket with great interest. Diplomat Pellin was studying Jeremy, interested in why Jeremy was so interested in this item in particular. The silver trinket was a pair of triangular plates, each only slightly larger than the palm of a human hand, and connected together by metal wires at all 3 points. It was nothing more than a hollow triangular prism. However, in between the plates floated small metal objects of varying sizes and shapes. Derek watched as a metal orb floated upwards, reaching the top of the plate before falling gently downwards again. Tara didn't notice that Jeremy had taken out his diagnostic tool until he moved to put it away again. He turned to face the 3 other humans.
"We should get this,"
he stated, wide-eyed. Derek fiddled with his translator.
Diplomat Pellin, do you know what this is?
The diplomat squawked something, before handing over his translator to the Onathin manning the stall. The red-feathered Onathin chirped.
I see you are interested in the nutator. It will make a great gift for your hatchlings once you return home.
It's a children's toy.
Tara asked.
Yes, and a most useful one at that. It'll keep them fascinated and entranced, giving you valuable quiet time whilst you prepare meals and perform other duties for your hatchlings.
The Onathin leaned closer.
I have used it many times to distract my hatchlings while I fix a nice grub worm treat for myself.
Alan watched as Jeremy slowly poked one of the floating objects out from between the triangular plates. It fell with a soft clink onto the stall.
Careful with that.
The Onathin squawked, before reinserting the object into the toy. Jeremy looked up.
Can I put other objects into it so that I can reuse the same toy to distract easily bored child? Hatchlings.
Of course.
The Onathin picked up a small red feather from the stall floor and placed it within the toy. It began to move upwards, then downwards again.
Now, have you any Onathin credit?
The humans all looked at each other. Derek spoke.
Well, no. This is our first journey outside our home system. We're still not really sure how our species' economies are going to integrate.
The Onathin squawked in disapproval. He moved to remove the translator around his neck.
Wait!
Derek said.
We don't have Onathin credits, but are you willing to barter?
The Onathin cocked his head.
Depends on what you have to barter.
Well, we do have some barrels of refined interstellar fuel that we could part with.
Derek said thoughtfully.
A well-traveled merchant such as yourself must always be in need of more interstellar fuel. How about 2 barrels for this hatchling's toy?
The red-feathered Onathin waited a moment for the translator to convert a barrel to standard Onathin units. It shook its feathers.
2 is too little. I would need at least 5 to jump to Retala.
5? Our prototype interstellar engine could make the journey from Onathi to Retala with 4 barrels of interstellar fuel. You're not seriously telling me that Onathin interstellar engines are not more efficient than our prototype engine? However, in the spirit of goodwill, I would be willing to trade 3 barrels. What say you?
I say 4 barrels. I know how much you want this item. You'll take the deal.
Tara pointed ostentatiously at a neighboring booth.
Oh, look, Derek.
She intoned in a playful way.
That booth seems to be selling the same toy over there. Let's see if they are willing to barter.
3 barrels it is.
The Onathin said nervously.
Very well. Agreed.
Derek finalized. He looked toward Diplomat Pellin, who nodded and pressed some buttons into a mobile console he carried under his wing. Moments later, a spacecraft drone flew towards a nearby spire, dropping 3 barrels of fuel into its maw. A lump glided down the trunk, and the fuel barrels appeared at the bottom of the spire, looking a little moist. A couple of Onathin aides rolled them over. Derek carefully picked up the hatchling toy.
It's a pleasure doing business with you.
The red-feathered Onathin nodded and gave the translator back to Diplomat Pellin. Derek gave the toy to Jeremy as they walked on. Once they were a safe distance away, Alan asked Derek.
I know it's a little late, but could we afford to give him 3 barrels of fuel?
We could have afforded to give him 7.
Derek said with a smirk.
I'm an engineer. I always think about risk mitigation. Of course, I brought more fuel than we need.
Tara chuckled beside him.
Besides,
Derek said,
we'll need even less fuel if Ambassador Evans can bring the first prelate on board with the Pathfinder project.
First Prelate Ewardian leaned back, absently preening his feathers as he considered Ambassador Evans' unusual request. He pensively addressed the human ambassador.
What made you humans decide to develop this Pathfinder project? What dissuaded you from using conventional interstellar engines for interstellar travel?
Ambassador Tyler Evans stepped closer to the branch desk and Prelate Ewardian. Rays of red and orange light stretched across the floor, cast by the setting Onathi sun through the transparent walls.
I meant no offense, First Prelate. There is nothing wrong with using interstellar engines to travel to other stars. However, humans have only recently entered the greater galactic community and do not have access to vast amounts of interstellar fuel. The fuel that we used to travel here required almost a journey to refine, and only amounts to less than 30 barrels. The Pathfinder project would allow us to travel farther, and drastically decrease the amount of fuel we would need to travel to our destination.
First Prelate Ewardian stopped preening and refocused his 4 eyes on the human.
If what you tell me is true, then you could have launched a Pathfinder probe and used it to travel here. Why didn't you?
Prelate Ewardian cocked his head and intently studied the ambassador.
Everything is true, First Prelate. We've tested the Pathfinder probe within our home system a few times. However, launching the probe to a destination outside of our system is the only true test that can give us meaningful answers. Of course, we wouldn't launch an untested craft at the homeworld of our greatest friend in the galaxy.
Evans explained.
Which is why we elected to take the time to refine enough fuel to make the trek. so I can speak to you in person.
First Prelate Ewardian was still staring intently at Evans with keen avian eyes. Evans continued.
We also have no other extrasolar colonies. If anything goes wrong at the destination of the Pathfinder probe, we would not be able to collect the data and analyze it to make future improvements. Another thing to note, First Prelate, is that if the Pathfinder project works, it would facilitate trade and exchange between our species. A new era of prosperity could begin for both our civilizations.
The 4 eyes of the blue Onathin blinked slowly. Prelate Ewardian rolled his observations around in his mind. Again, no hints of aggressive behavior. The Pathfinder project could certainly be used for invasion, but all I see in this human is a burning curiosity, a drive to unlock the secrets of the universe, and an eagerness to belong to a greater whole. He addressed Ambassador Evans.
This Pathfinder project is quite intriguing. However, the Onathin Parliament will undoubtedly be against launching a Pathfinder probe in the Onathi system.
The human's face drooped, almost imperceptibly. Prelate Ewardian's eyes scanned Evans again. Disappointment. Sadness. But no hint of defiance. Ambassador Evans took a breath. And there it is. Determination and tenacity. Persistence.
Of course, it was highly optimistic of me to hope that the Onathin Parliament would accept such an intrusive arrangement at the beginning of our friendship.
Evans acknowledged.
Perhaps it is acceptable if we choose a launch site that is elsewhere in the Onathin sovereignty. Sakala is the closest system to the Sol system. It would make a perfect test site for the Pathfinder project, since human engineers and scientists could easily travel back and forth between the systems with minimal fuel expenditure.
Prelate Ewardian puffed his face feathers and cocked his head.
I think the Onathin Parliament would agree to that. The Sakala system is on the outskirts of the sovereignty, and barely receives sufficient levels of economic support. If your Pathfinder project really can facilitate trade, it could potentially lessen the strain on our resources to support that system. You have my permission to launch the Pathfinder probe. However, I would like Diplomat Pellin to accompany you to observe the project, and also to visit Earth. I think it is time that the Onathin people knew more about humans.
Ambassador Evans smiled widely.
Thank you for your understanding and cooperation, First Prelate. As always, our discussions are as cordial as they are productive.
He noticed something blinking on the view screen behind the Onathin. Prelate Ewardian noticed his gaze.
I have an important incoming transmission. I believe our business is concluded.
Ambassador Evans bowed and spread his arms in farewell.
It is indeed. Thank you again for your time.
Evans turned on his heel and strode proudly out of the throne room. Tara Yang stared down from the viewport of their prototype ship. The small, bulky craft was illuminated by the lights emanating from the Onathi spaceport. It wasn't the spaceport she was looking at. It was the Onathi marketplace, whose lights and spires were visible from high orbit. Sleek drones constantly streamed in and out of the space station, before falling downwards onto the planet and delivering their cargo to the waiting spires. Merchant spacecraft were seen to exit the atmosphere and rotate slowly towards a star, before engaging their interstellar engines and blasting off, leaving wakes of light flowing behind them. She whispered to Derek.
Someday, Earth will be like this.
Derek pulled her close.
We'll make Earth better than this.
They were interrupted by approaching footsteps as Ambassador Evans and Diplomat Pellin boarded the prototype spacecraft.
I'm back,
Evans announced.
How was the Onathi marketplace?
He turned and peered into the cargo hold.
Are we missing some fuel?
Oh yeah, we traded it for a thing.
Derek said vaguely.
How did the meeting with the prelate go?
Well, we have permission to launch a comm anchor here, but Prelate Ewardian will only let us launch the Pathfinder probe back in the Sakala system.
Evans narrowed his eyes.
We do have enough fuel to get there, right?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Derek said quickly.
I'm just not looking forward to another month of being stuck in this ship.
What did you guys buy with the fuel?
Evans asked suspiciously.
Well,
Alan began.
Jeremy found this cool thing and said we should buy it, and we all figured, why not? It would be nice to have a souvenir to bring back to Earth.
Jeremy turned around and revealed the triangular prism with floating objects inside.
Isn't it great?
He said excitedly.
You gave them 3 barrels of fuel for that?
Evans asked incredulously.
Do you know how long it takes to refine 3 barrels of fuel?
Yeah, but look at it.
Jeremy stuck a random bolt he found on the ground in between the plates. It started floating upwards, before reaching the top and falling downwards slowly again.
Wait a minute. You knew how valuable interstellar fuel is, and you still gave them 3 barrels of it for an Onathin lava lamp?
Derek cocked his head.
I guess it is sort of like an Onathin lava lamp. We were told it was a toy for children.
How does that make it better?
Jeremy stepped closer and flourished the toy again.
No, Ambassador, you don't understand.
He gazed rapturously at the silver toy.
We essentially gave them 3 barrels of refined hydrogen for anti-gravity technology.